What's up, guys? Welcome back to JodabeniTV. Today is another amazing day to get after it, and we're going to be better today than we were yesterday. And for today's video, we're going to be looking at the new MLS Next Pro League that just got announced last week. If you guys don't know about it, earlier on this year, we did get rumors that the MLS is going to be bringing a Tier 2 MLS professional group. And as of last week, they did announce it, and today we're going to be going over all the details about it. So first, we're going to be looking at the facts and what is MLS Next Pro, and then we're going to be looking at the pros and cons, so you want to stay tuned to the end of the video to figure out if this league is for you, or if you're not a player and you're just interested to see, you can find out if the MLS Next Pro is a good addition to the US professional system. So let's get started. MLS Next Pro. What is it? What is it? So MLS pretty much said this is going to be like a second, the next level of developmental league initiated so that younger players can have, a gap where they can get better and get ready for the MLS. And likewise, MLS players who may be coming off of injury or who aren't getting minutes, they can go down to their team's second team and get minutes. That way they can stay fit and keep improving while playing in the second league. So the first initial bridge that the MLS had was the MLS Next, and as you saw as of last year, a lot of MLS teams were signing homegrown players to be part of the first team MLS teams, but most of those homegrown players aren't getting any minutes. So it's not doing them any good training with the first teams but not getting concrete minutes and not improving against other teams. So I believe this is a way for them to get these homegrown players and other players that are good enough but they didn't have the money to give them MLS pay so they can play together and they can all improve. So MLS Next Pro is going to be third tier, so it's going to be right next to USL League 1 and NISA. There's going to be a total of 21 teams, and there's going to be 8 more teams joining in MLS Next Pro in 2023, but as of the 2022 season, there's going to be a total of 21 teams. It is going to be separated with the Western and Eastern Conference as well, just like the MLS. Now, for every single one of these pro teams, there has to be a minimum of 13 signed players on each squad. Meaning, if there's an MLS Next Pro team, they can't just have a whole 25 players of non-professional players playing. Because yes, there's going to be some players who are going to be given professional contracts, and there's going to be some players who are just academy players who are training with this MLS Next Pro team and playing games, but they aren't necessarily signed professionals, because maybe some of these students, some of these kids want to play college, but once you have a professional contract, you can no longer play college. So maybe if they're not ready for the college level yet, they can still be playing on this MLS Next Pro team without losing their eligibility to play college. That way they can move on. And another thing could be that teams, if they're trying to cut budgeting, they can't cut it all the way to like maybe 5 signed players and everybody else is academy players, but forcing teams to find quality players where they will have to pay. Now here's the catch. The catch is, for every game day roster, there cannot be more than 3 players that are over the age of 23, enforcing that all these MLS Next Pro teams during game day have to have a majority of younger players, so that they're giving them a chance to, improve. But for the regular roster, I'm pretty sure they're allowed to have more than 3 players that are over the age of 23. It's just that when it comes to game day, if they have 7 players that are over the age of 23, only 3 of them can make the roster for game day. Wait a minute, before we continue, if you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and it would help the channel tremendously. All right, let's get back right into it. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons of the MLS Next Pro. So first off, we're gonna start off with the downsides, because downsides are usually the more juicier part. So these are downsides that I believe are downsides. So everybody has their own perspective. From my experience, this is what I see as downsides. So immediately off the bat, the number one downside that I've seen is, because MLS Next Pro is going to be its own league, MLS teams that already have teams in the USL Championship or the USL League 1 are going to be taking all of these teams out of those leagues and bringing them to the MLS Next Pro. What this means is you're taking, 21-year-old, 22-year-old guys who are playing in USL Championship league, playing against seasoned professionals, that even some that come from Europe, and now you're gonna take them out of that environment, playing against 100% grown men, into MLS Next Pro, where they're only gonna be playing kids their age or even younger. So automatically, you may be stunting some of these kids' growth in terms of level, playing against people who are better than them. Because the only way to really improve is playing against higher competition, better players makes you better. The second downside that I saw was that, there can't be more than 3 players that are over the age of 23 on a game day roster. So what they're looking for is kids from the age of 23 and under. But in the United States, a majority of kids from 19 to 23 are already in college. So you're gonna be, if you're really looking to close that gap, you might have to raise that age a little bit higher, because most people are coming out of college at 22, 23, or 24. And that's the area where kids are, if let's say they don't make it to the MLS draft, maybe you can put them on the MLS Next Pro team where you can get them ready for the MLS. But when you put the age limit at 23 and only allowing like 3 players, you're not gonna have a lot of flexibility. And all of these academy kids aren't gonna be getting older and better players joining their team because of the age limit. So the third one, it could be a con or a pro, depending on the child or the person themselves. Because if let's say you finish high school, you're 18, and you have the opportunity to play MLS Next Pro, and you also have the opportunity to play college soccer. Now you come down a crossroad where you have to decide, am I gonna be continuing my academy? Maybe, hopefully they sign me. If they don't, I'll go to college. So that's the only thing you would have to decide, but school isn't for everybody, so it's not necessarily a con. For those who want to go to school, it may be a con because you're gonna be forced to either play with the academy team and pay all your schooling, or play with the university, get your school paid for, or even some of it, and not play in the MLS Next Pro. So now let's think about the pros and advantages of the MLS Next Pro League, okay? So right off the bat, there's gonna be 21 teams going into 2022. If you multiply that, let's say if each roster was a total of 25 players, that's a total of 521 positions that are now available. I do understand some teams already had players on them that are gonna be just transferring over to the new league. But overall, there's gonna be plenty of new teams being formed, being created. So there's players who are free agents right now. There's academy players that, maybe they didn't get their best scholarship offer. So now they're stuck at some school that they don't like, but now they can leave school and sign professionally early and start their career ahead of time. The second advantage is actually for the younger guys. If you're 15, 16, 17, and you get put on one of these MLS Next Pro teams, you're gonna be playing against high quality players. You're gonna be playing with players where they're not too far advanced. For an example, putting a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old on an MLS team, the gap is really hard because just the physicality of 26-year-old men, 27, 28-year-old men versus a 16-year-old, the difference is too much. But if you put a 16-year-old against 21, 22, 23-year-old kids, the difference isn't too bad, where they can improve and see good results without just being overwhelmed 100% of the time, hurting their mentalness. The next advantage is college kids who do graduate at 20 or 21. Now they have a gateway into the professional world. Let's say they don't get into the MLS draft, but they are good enough. They can go out and trial for one of these MLS Next Pro teams and start their professional season, and maybe they can transfer over to USL League One, NISA, USL Championship, or even the MLS itself. And even if none of those work out, you can always go to Europe because you have started your professional career already in the MLS Next Pro, and having the MLS name attached to it already looks good on your resume. Even though some people in other countries won't understand that MLS Next Pro is third tier, but just seeing the name MLS may benefit you greatly whenever you decide to leave the United States of America. The fourth advantage is you don't need to go to college now. Honestly speaking, if you're balling out in your academy team and you want to play professionally, now your own teams are going to have their own MLS Next Pro teams where you can just move up, get signed, and start your professional career, versus having to fight for a position on the MLS first team. And last but not least is there's just going to be more soccer awareness now. The more teams you have, the more players you're going to be playing, and the more talk and the more media. So overall, parents will have more opportunities to get their children in different leagues, pushing the awareness. Just, you know, instead of squeezing it, because it used to just be MLS. Your kids go through high school and try to make it to the MLS. That was it. So nobody really talked about it. But now you have different stages, different leagues of professionalism that people can enter. Now there's more kids who can now aspire to make the professional world because it's now more attainable. At first it was just go to college and try to get into the MLS draft. But now you don't even have to go to college to be a professional. Now there's all these leagues. More players can just right out of high school, try and sign their professional contract. And if that doesn't work, then they can go to college, which I really like. And so yeah, that's what I have for you for the MLS Next Pro. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of the MLS Next Pro League, if it's worth it, or do you think it was a bad idea? Just let us know in the comment section below. Alright guys, I'll see you guys in the next video, and JodabeniTV is out.
Oh babe, you might just make me go crazy. Thinking about you like all day. I'ma need you like always.